Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of the Ashes of Creation Community Podcast. I'm your host, the Big Chick Giant, and today's guest is one of the community moderators, Frederick, also known as Fred Duck, and one of our community members, Lex. How you doing, guys?
Hello, I'm doing great, thank you.
Okay, just a quick reminder and disclaimer to everybody who's watching. This is something I do on the side, has nothing to do with Intrepid or anything, and it's just plainly for the community itself, because the community is awesome and the community deserves its own podcast.
Well, I'm leaving then.
Okay, goodbye. That said, today's topic, because in the last couple of podcasts we covered pretty much everything we know so far about Ashes. And that's why for this podcast, I thought it would be interesting if we talk about something that a lot of people like speculated and talked about on the Discord a lot, which is raids, any type of raids. And I'm gonna be trying to fact check everything we talk about tonight. I have a couple websites open while we're doing this podcast, but I think mostly what we're gonna talk about is theories on how things could be, how things shouldn't be, and let's see how it goes. But first off, before we get going, it's something that I always ask everybody who comes on the podcast. Is the first topic is, wait, where is it? There it is. How long have you been involved with Ashes? Lex, you better start us off, because you have been on the podcast before, and I think you pretty much know how to answer that question already.
Sure. Well, since about March, and I started when I saw some videos coming up in my YouTube feed, I think it was. Can't remember exactly which videos. And I followed the game and funded it in Kickstarter and joined the forums in May. I funded other games before, but they've either not delivered or they've turned into something horrible or pay to win. So I've got really high hopes for this game.
Okay, Frederick, you're probably one of the most famous mods in the community. Like, how did you get to become a mod, and how long have you been involved with the game?
So I actually saw some Facebook ads back in December 2017, but I didn't really pay them any attention. I just saw them, but I didn't really look into the game. But then later, my girlfriend, she saw those ads as well, I think. And she started talking about Ash creation and how cool she thought it was. And from there, I kind of got involved with the community. I made an account on the forums, but it still wasn't me. Then the Discord server came, and that was my thing. I really, really, really prefer instant messaging, as there is on Discord. So that's what made me really interested in the game.
Okay.
From there, I just talked to the people, fell in love with the community, gotten involved in some small projects here and there, and look at me now. Now I'm a moderator.
Nice. I think tonight is. I think it's for some people. If I'm reading this right in chat, it's for some people the first time that they actually hear your voice. So that's probably one of the reasons people join us tonight. Okay, let's jump straight to the first real topic of tonight, which is I'm way too slow. There we go. Is favorite raid experience. I've been playing MMORPGs since EverQuest 1. And one of my favorite things to do is getting together with a large group of people and doing stuff that you cannot do by yourself or in small groups. Therefore, I really do love raiding. And when somebody would ask me, like, what's my favorite raid experience, I have 3 answers for that, because there are 3 cases where I can look back to and say, yeah, those were like amazing raid experiences. The first one was pretty much World of Warcraft vanilla. When I did my first raid by myself, I was the raid leader, and it was one of the early Solgurup raids. And I have to say, I did not know what I was doing, but the community back then was so open and welcoming that you were able to get 20 random people together, and just have fun, and it was amazing. And then like events like Arthur's Lich King on hardcore was one of the great things. And then always, raiding together with people you just enjoy playing with, and getting together in large groups and just doing stuff you cannot do by yourself. So what I want to know now from you two, because we've been talking up front is about raiding, is like what are your favorite raid experiences when you look back? Like what's like the one raid that you really do like to think back of? Who wants to go first?
No, I'll go first. I really, I like what you said about working together as a group. That does have a lot of appeal to me as well. Working together in a capacity of collaboration to achieve an objective that you can't do on your own. My favourite experience is also to do. It was in Wrath of the Lich King. And it's my most loved MMORPG experience, I think, so far. It's kind of a funny story. Our guild was going for our first Lich King kill, and we were pretty early on the server in terms of downing Lich King on heroic. And at that stage, we'd probably wiped about 100 times. And we finally got to phase 4 of the Lich King. If you can remember back, that basically means you've got a free kill. And all you have to do is, pretty much burn off the Lich King's... Oh, I see Bacon poking his head on the stream. All you have to do is burn off the Lich King's remaining, I think it's 10% health while he remains frozen. So we were all very hyped, and we're actually screaming with joy in Vent at the time. Because it was, this was an extremely hard progression, and we'd finally gotten there. And then at that very moment, I DC'd, and I plummeted from the height of triumph to utter disaster. So my connection had dropped, and so in pure panic, I was, frantically trying to reconnect, and I got back in, I think, within a minute or so. But by the time I got back online, despite the guild, stopping all DPS on the Lich King, the Tyrion Fordring NPC actually killed him.
Oh, really?
And because I was off, he DPSs him very, very lightly during that phase, and so I ended up, because I was offline, I ended up with no achievement. So I kind of broke down in tears at that point.
Oh, dude, I feel you, dude. Oh, I'm so sorry for that.
But that's harsh.
Yeah, it was. But the guild took pity on me, and none of the raiders in that team wore their Kingslayer title until I got mine, which was on the next lockout. So yeah, it's that kind of roller coaster of emotion that really underscores why I love, like you say, grouping up and achieving these objectives together. It's kind of a visceral experience, and I hope we can capture that in Ashes.
Frederick, what about you? What's your favorite raid experience?
Yeah, so as you might know, I'm not really that old. I just turned 18, so I haven't been raiding for as long as you guys. So actually, I first started raiding here in Legion, World of Warcraft, the newest expansion. So I don't really have a lot to take from.
Let me tell you about the olden days.
Go ahead.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let me rephrase the question for you, because now that I know that. Okay, as somebody who's just gotten back into raiding, or just gotten into raiding in general for Legion, like how do you see raiding in Legion? Like, do you see it as like something everybody can do like by himself with random people, or is it something that you would enjoy with people rather than with random people?
Okay, so currently I'm in a guild where we raid 2 times a week, which is really, really fun. I really enjoyed the community aspect of that, and getting to know these people. They're really nice, having fun with them, raiding. And I must say, like, parking a group with random people, that's horrible. First off, there's no connection, there's no community feeling. You don't get to know them, which I really like. about MMOs, like getting to know people, getting involved with people, chatting with them, having fun. That's essentially why I play MMOs. So for me, making a pre-made group is not really fun.
Okay.
So definitely the guild experience and community experience of a raid, that's what draws me in. And if I have to like come up with a favorite moment, that was actually here in Legion with Gul'dan in the Nighthold, if you know that one.
Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah. So we were progressing like really hard to get Gul'dan heroic as one of the first guilds on our server. And man, I can't remember how many times we wiped, but we sat on him for like 4 hours that day and just wiped and wiped and wiped and wiped all the time. But then finally we got him down, killed him, and oh my god, all of us, we were screaming, we were yelling, some of us were crying. It was really a blast, that feeling when you finally get down to raid boss you have been trying to kill forever.
I can understand that. Like I like me and Lex probably been raiding a lot longer than most people who are currently watching, and that what you just described is like one of the main reasons why like I personally like raiding, because it's something like if you work together as a group and you really like. For example, Sindragosa, like it's in Wrath of the Lich King. It was the second DLC for World of Warcraft. Was a boss before Arthas himself, and I think we tried that boss at least over 500 times. We've wiped 500 times on that boss, and the second, like it took us longer to kill that boss and took us to kill the last boss in that stupid raid. Mm-hmm. And the second that stupid thing died, I just stood up. And I was just like, I just was happy. I was like, yes, finally, you dumb freaking Drake, finally. So, but everybody was screaming and everything, and I think that whole excitement, that's what, if you experience that, I think that's what gets a lot of people. I think that's one of the reasons that people really do love raids. So somebody want to say something?
I just wanted to add to that and say, it's that feeling that you mentioned. I can't describe it unless you've been through it. It's something unlike anything else. It's quite amazing.
It's honestly, it's like one of the best experience anybody can have in any type of video game. Okay, Let's go into the main topic for tonight. We do not know a lot about raids for Ashes of Creation. We know a couple things, and I got most of the things that Intrepid said on my screen, so I can, like I said, I can fact check some things. But one of the major things everybody knows who has been part of the community for the last couple months, weeks, is that Steven stated 40-man raids. I'm looking for the quote right now, but the one thing he said was large focus on epic raids, 40-man raid groups taking out epic world bosses. So we do not know in what extent those 40-man raids are meant. And I'm gonna give some feedback or some indication on what I personally think 40-man raids are going to be like, and then I want you to jump in. For example, if anybody who played World of Warcraft as long as I have since the beginning knows that if you compare boss mechanics between now, like in Legion, and back in World of Warcraft Vanilla, early Burning Crusade, you notice one thing. First off, the size of the raid groups. It went from 40 man down to 25, and now I think it's 20, or even 10 man. Used to be 10 man, and another thing is the difficulty of the raids. If you compare, for example, Ragnarok, which was one of the first big big bosses in the Molten Core raid in World of Warcraft, to something in a current Legion raid, the complexity of the fight is on different worlds. Like Ragnarok's way easy back then. Legion raids now kind of like a lot more difficult than they used to be in the past. So one of the things that I want to know is the one thing that I'm worried about is because a lot of people, a lot of PvP focused players, they say like, yeah, what, making a raid is easy and stuff like that. If they really want to pull off 40-man raids, they need to put a lot of work into those raids. Another thing is that I want to state is we do not know if those raids will be instanced. They have not said anything about instance raid. The only thing we know is there will be instance dungeons. So what I want to know now, Lex, and I'm gonna go with you first on this one. How do you think they will pull off 40-man raids if they're instanced or if they're not instanced?
Well, either way, I think it's going to be a huge. I'm a little bit skeptical about how that's going to work, given how it works in other games, like how it worked in WoW and Classic. Okay, so starting off with the instance, that'll be a lot easier, because one of my concerns about open world raids, even open world dungeons, is lag. I mean, we've played BDO, probably we've all played it, and open world bosses, it's insane. The lag, when you get 50 or 60 people, it's you get massive lag. So that's one concern. The other concern is obviously zergs and mechanics in the open world. So instance is a lot easier to manage, but with 40-man raids, I mean, I don't know whether you guys are familiar. You probably are, Giant, familiar with the many whelps meme from the Noah. Now that to me is an example of how crazy raids are, even when the mechanics are very simple. Like you say, you mentioned that, and it's true. The vanilla mechanics and compared to today are ridiculously easy, but having that many people involved just turns it into an insane kind of crazy environment to manage. So it's kind of epic, but at the same time it's kind of crazy. So either way, that's the reason. Those are the reasons why 40-man was phased out in WoW and Burning Crusade. So I'm just hoping that there is a vision. Stephen has a vision for the 40-man that is a lot more tactical and a lot slower, to avoid some of that kind of chaos. And I think that's based on what we've seen in PAX. I think that is where the combat system is heading. So, I'm kind of hopeful in that regard.
What's your opinion, Frederick?
Well, as Lex said, I can imagine it being really chaotic. I haven't experienced 40-man raid myself, but first of all, I can really imagine the lag. I myself don't really have the best computer. I run WoW on medium settings. It's nothing special. It's actually a laptop. So I can imagine a big chunk of lag with 40 people. And besides that, a point I want to make is, if they're not instance open world raids, couldn't you essentially camp them? Like, put 40 people at a boss and just wait till the next spawn timer begins, till the next spawn time, and then just kill it before everybody else appears at that boss.
Well, the thing, it's one of the topics, like open world raids and world bosses is our next topic. But I think for this one, I think the question that we should ask ourselves right now is, if anybody who played any sort of MMORPG and has been in a situation where you have more than 200 people in a spot, right? Like back in the day, we used to, a couple guilds, we used to, raid Stormwind, or they used to raid Orgrimmar, and anything more than 400 people and the server crashed. And even these days, if a server really wanted to, like the server popularity, if every player on a server in World of Warcraft would join in one spot, the server would crash. If you play Black Desert Online, which is a high graphics game, unless you tear down your graphics, and you do a world boss, and everybody, you know, goes nuts with their skills, you're just gonna start having lags.
Yeah.
So we know, and Frederick, you're a mod, you have more insight than any of us, so you can kind of like correct me if I'm like stating something wrong. So we know we will have instant dungeons. We know we're gonna have open world dungeons. We know we are going to have raids. If those raids will be only open world or if they are only gonna be instance, we don't know yet. So, but taking away the whole dungeon aspect, Steven said 40-man raid. So I'm assuming two things. One is that there will be a group roster. You know, when you invite people, you know, instead of just having 5 people in your group, you have 40 people in your group. And then there's gonna be some sort of challenge that they are going to scale to only 40 people. So that said, I would assume, and I'm going a little bit off the books now because, you know, like I said, we don't have a lot of information. But if they do instant 40-man raids, and there is something Steven said that I'm looking for right now. I had it a second ago, where he described the way he wants his raids to be, which are challenging, and that people have to learn the mechanics of the raid. So if they really do 40-man instance raids, they need to really like spread out the raid instance. Meaning, you know, in most boss fights and raids, you're in a small room, mid-sized room, and you know you have a couple of mechanics going on and stuff like that. So what I would like to see is, for example, you have a tower room, like a large high ceiling room. Right?
Yeah.
At the bottom, you have 40 people, and you need to split up those 40 people into 3 groups. One group is fighting the boss at the bottom. The other one is running up the stairs, bringing something to the top, while there's another group on the top doing something, fighting something else. And at the end of the raid, it's not really a DPS race. It's more like you need to fulfill a certain mechanic that splits up your group. And then at the end of the fight, something from the bottom drops on the floor and kills the boss. So if they really want to pull up 40-man instance raids, I think they really need to come up with new and innovative ways to like do bosses. If you look, for example, at big events in Guild Wars 2, for example, in the last expansion, not the one that just came out in the last expansion, like the last boss fight, where you fight that big snake thing that goes into the ground or flies around. There were a lot of mechanics going on in that fight, and there were way more than 40 people in one spot, and it worked. So I think if they really want to pull off 40-man raids, they need to look at something like that. So what do you guys think? How do you guys think they can pull off 40-man raids in an instant situation? Frederick, what do you think?
Well, as you said, they need to come up with something, or probably need to come up with something that kind of splits the group. Because first of all, it would be really boring if it's just 40-man DPSing a boss, evading set skills, set mechanic, and so. Like when you have 40-man raiding, you also have the potential to have 40-man moving around in the raid. So that opens up a door of possibilities to have mechanics that WoW, for example, can't have because of the size of the group. So as you said, you could maybe have 10-man doing set thing and another 10-man doing another thing, and have 40-man raids really opens up the possibility to have new raid mechanics that you normally don't see in other raids because of the raid size.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea.
Let me ask you this. I think a lot of people that are watching, a lot of people that are following this game, a lot of you guys are into anime, I would assume. So, has any of you two ever watched an anime called Log Horizon?
I've watched like the first 10 episodes or so,
Okay.
and then I got kind of stuck in it.
Okay, I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people in chat are gonna be like, "What the hell is he going at?" So, anyways, there's I think it's one of the last episodes. They end up fighting several bosses at the same time, and they have to split up the raid in many different ways. They have to fight two bosses at the same time. Then somebody has to kite while the other guy runs somewhere and does something else. So I love 40-man raids. The more people, the better, because it's just awesome. If you have 40 people yelling at the same time in Discord, trust me, if you get excited about 20 people yelling after you kill a boss after 4 hours, try 40 people going just nuts. And so since World of Warcraft Vanilla, and I went and played other games, they promised 40-man raids in Wildstar, which was kind of okay, but because Wildstar didn't really do so well, that didn't really work out for me. So I have not played a real MMORPG where you have 40-man raids, and in my experience, it's one of the best experience somebody can have. So if they really do try to pull off 40-man raids in instance situations, I hope they come up with a whole new system. What do you think, Lex?
Well, one of the things I remember Stephen saying, and I can't remember the exact quote, but he did say that 40-man is made up of pretty much made up of 5 groups of 8, and so what I hope, and this is going towards what Frederick said, is the idea that you've got 5 parties in effect, and there could be 5 ads, there could be 5 bosses, there could be 5 different rooms you've got to go off and use utility skills to find the traps or navigate over canyons or whatever it might be. So that's the kind of thing I'm hoping for. Like you say, Giant, splitting it up a little bit, changing it from just an outright DPS fest to something more along the lines of a collaborative effort where every group within the raid has some particular task. Not everyone's just focusing the same thing all the time.
Now that you said that, I just found the spot I was looking for on the AOC wiki, which is one of the current Wikipedia sites that a lot of the members are actually keeping up to date. It says here, so the question goes, or the statement goes, you mentioned a lot of Ashes having a lot of PvP and PvE content. What can we expect about raiding in Ashes? So the first thing pretty much goes, in order to have a good blend, making the game from PvE perspective really deserves and engaging, the PvE content needs to be really good, so PvP matters. Then he goes into large focus on epic raids, 40-man raid groups taking out epic world bosses. This is going to be the next topic that we're going to talk about. But then here comes the third part, the part that goes in hand with what you just said, Lex. Having problem-solving play a role, not just zerging content. So that alone tells me that they're thinking about how can they pull off raids. Instance or not, that's something we have to wait and see. But that said, let's jump into the third topic, because that's something that a lot of the people want to talk about, which is open world raids versus world bosses. So here's where I want Frederick to come in, because Frederick is new to raiding, or started to raid a couple months ago. Okay, so open world raids is something I have not seen in any game ever. Period.
Yeah.
A raid for me is an evil lair, where the King of Sandals lives and rules over his minions, and you have to go in and you have to kill what everybody knows as trash mobs. So at least that's how I think of raids. That's what raids are for me. It's somewhere I go, I kill stuff, then I kill a bad guy, then I kill more stuff, then I kill another bad guy, till I get to the end, to the big bad guy. I feel like a lot of people have, I don't know, like maybe it's my age, but a lot of people have different opinions on what raids are these days. And world bosses are just bosses that spawn periodically somewhere in the world, and you go kill its one boss, and you're done. So Frederick, what I want to know now is, what would you rather like to see? Would you rather like to see like a place where you go and you have to kill stuff before you kill a bad guy, or do you just want like a world boss like happening somewhere in the world, like once in a while?
Personally, I prefer raids. I have seen world bosses in WoW, since that's like the only MMO I've really played. But personally, I prefer raids over world bosses because of the aesthetics, because of the looks of the raid, because of the build-up. Like when you enter a raid, and it looks really cool, that's that feeling of awe for me. That's a great feeling. I love that feeling. Experiencing a new raid, a new corridor, a new room. That's a feeling I really like. And then that brings me to the build-up. I really like going through this raid, killing ads, killing trash to get to the boss. I don't like just flying or walking over to a mountain, seeing the boss spawn and then just kill it and let it be over with. I wanted to take time to accomplish the goal of killing the bad guy, as you called them, the King of Sandals. I don't just want him to spawn somewhere in the world, go over to him, kill him, and be over with it.
Okay, let me, because somebody just said something in chat, which I'm gonna read out loud, because I think that's where a lot of opinions split, and a lot of people think different about it. He says, Boysie83 says, you guys see raids still in an old-fashioned way, from which takes hours to get to and kill, doesn't need to be like that anymore. So, like I said, honestly, this is different opinions. I know some people that just want to get in, kill the boss, get their loot, done. Other people like, I don't know, like Frederick just stated, I think me and Lex are the same way. We like to go in, and not just be right in front of the boss as soon as we go in. We want to work our way up to the boss and then take a couple tries to kill the boss. And I feel like with open world raids, the idea is fun. But in a situation like Ashes, there's a lot of PvP going on. So, having big raids and you're fighting a boss in an open world scenario, even if it's, let's see, you go into the big bad castle, which is open world, and it took you like 20 minutes to get to the boss, and then you're fighting the boss, and you're like 2% away from killing the boss, and then all of a sudden some guild decides, you know what, we want to be assholes. We're gonna kill you guys before you kill the boss, and let the boss reset.
Yeah,
so,
that happens in BDO a lot.
Yeah, that happens in games, and honestly, it's for me personally, I think it's, if you want to be a dickhead in real life, be a dickhead in real life, but leave me alone in the game world. So, like, what do you think? Like, how do you see, open world raids or world bosses working in Ashes?
Yeah, well, like you say, Giant, I have never experienced open world raids either. There's plenty of world content, world bosses in different games, but open world raids would be a completely new thing as far as I know in the genre. And I don't exactly know how they'll pull it off, but I do know that if they do have open world raids with the PvP element in Ashes of Creation, it's going to be a real different experience to what we're used to. I mean, like I said, in BDO, it was bad enough with, that kind of, ganking that goes on in open world bosses, but open world raids, where you, like you say, you do spend a long time getting to the boss and going through all of the mechanics, and to be ganked at the last minute would be devastating. So I don't know exactly how they're going to to counter that.
I think I have an idea that I just came up with, and I might be a genius or I might be the dumbest idea ever. Okay, we know, Frederick, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong when I'm saying this. We know there are open world dungeons, correct?
Yes.
Good. So let's assume. Let's be crazy. Let's be like, woo. Let's be like on drugs. It's like pretend we're on drugs and we're imagining things. And let's say there is a castle, like a castle, you know, where the Lord of Sandals, which is the bad guy, lives. And there are several rooms within that castle that you need to clear to get to the big bad guy. And to get to that guy, you need to clear out, you know, trash mobs on the way. Otherwise, you cannot fight the boss. So, what about this? It's a PvP battleground with the trash mobs till you get to the boss room. The first group that manages into the boss room gets to fight the boss and is therefore then in an instance and cannot be attacked during the boss try for like, I don't know, like an hour while they're fighting the boss until they clear the boss. As soon as they're done, if they kill the boss, it's the same thing over again till the next boss. How does that sound, Frederick? How does that sound?
To me, that actually sounds like a really fun and innovative idea. Having a PvP aspect go hand in hand with the PvP experience. I personally think I would enjoy having to watch out for other players as well, since the game isn't faction based. Having to watch out for other groups or other players potentially ganking me or my group to stop us from progressing to the boss. That thrill would be really interesting and new to me, at least.
Because the way I look at it now is because, you know, I'm trying to make everybody happy. And I know there's a lot of people, they don't want to do PvE. They really do not want to do PvE. They rather, honestly, they want to gank people, grief people. They want to rather fight other people and, not do anything for the gear. They just want to do PvP. On the other hand, you have people, they want to do PvE. They want to fight bosses. They want to get that whole PvE experience. So the way I see it now is Guild A wants to, is 40 people, wants to, go into the open world raid and kill the first boss. But there's Guild C that wants to do the same thing. So to help out Guild A, Guild A starts an alliance with Guild B, so Guild B keeps Guild C busy while Guild A is clearing the trash to the boss room. And so that's at least one way I would do it, because I know world bosses spawn, you kill the boss, you're done. That's like something really like generic, and people have done that before. So Lex, what do you think? What do you think open world raids could look like?
Well, yeah, that's to be honest, I really don't know how they're going to make it work, because I've thought this through, and no matter how you look at it, it's there are always going to be loopholes in the open world. There are always going to be, for example, an entire raid composed of rogues who are stealthed around the boss, waiting for the boss to get to 1%, and then doing whatever. I just think it's going to be very hard. But it was mentioned in chat earlier, and I totally agree. A lot of this could be solved with a good tagging and looting system. If tagging and looting is participation based, for example, if you are that rogue that just taps the boss, 1 second before it dies, you won't get any loot, or you won't get very good loot, because you didn't participate in that kill as much as the other players. So it's a risk versus reward thing. The people who risk the most get the most rewards. And if that mechanic is implemented, I think, in terms of tagging and looting, I think the design of open world dungeons and raids could be simplified quite a bit, rather than having to have all of these fancy, you go in this room and you go in this room. But that's just my opinion.
Well, we know a lot about PvP, and PvP is a sad thing. We know how it's gonna go. But Steven said, and I'm quoting here, making the game from a PvE perspective really diverse and engaging. So diverse means there is a variety of PvE things you can do, and engaging means you need to put effort into it. You want to do it. So let's say there isn't a real like PvE challenge in the game. Meaning there is no raids, dungeons are not really, something that you need to worry about because, the whole crafting aspect. I'm just wondering how in-depth the raiding system will be. Because open world raids always, like open world situations, always cause problems. I in any MMO that I played where you had an open world boss or an open world event, let's take World of Warcraft, vanilla, Lord Kazakh fights, always 2-hour battles with either the Alliance or the Horde, depending on what side you were on, till you could fight the boss. And then even while you were fighting the boss, you got ganked by, some rogues, who just didn't, do anything else. And even in Black Desert Online, you have people, that flag up, go red, just to kill people during the boss fight. So, you have that sort of people. So, like what I want to know, and this is something I said before we get started, we don't know a lot. We don't know anything about raids except they're aiming for 40-man people and that it's engaging and challenging. So, Frederick, what's like the best scenario you can imagine for yourself and Ashes when it comes to raids, even if it's instant, open world, or world bosses? Like, what's the best scenario? Like, what's the perfect result they can provide you before the game comes out?
That's a tough one.
I know.
The perfect raid scenario. Yeah. So for me, the perfect raid scenario, I think, like to me, it doesn't really matter if it's instance or if it's open world, as long as they make the system right, make it work without too many loopholes, without it being janky and feeling tedious to do. So as long as they pull off their desired way of having a raid, like open world or instance, that's fine to me. But with what Lex said about the participation system, I haven't played that Black Desert, so I don't know how it works in there. But wouldn't it just like make the best players get better while the bad players or the less good players just get worse because of the participation system? So if we have this good player doing 40% of the health of said boss, get the best loot, then he would get even better than the lesser good people.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. To me, as it is right now, without having experienced this participation system, I don't think that would be the way to go if it were me making Ashes of Creation. I would go with a more traditional type of looting system where you just like, if you tag the boss, then you get rewards.
But doesn't that open the system up to griefing? Where you've and it happens in WoW, it happens in other games. I remember in Duster. Do you remember that giant on the Isle of Giants?
Yes.
Yeah. And when that boss first came out, it was you needed 3 or 4 25-man groups, maybe 4 to kill it. And of course, it was faction tagged, and so there was just this. It was just, you'd spend 2 hours getting these groups together, and then you'd spend another 2 hours trying to down this boss, and then at the last minute, the Horde or the Alliance. I was playing the Alliance at that time, I think.
How dare you?
Yeah, I switched back.
Right.
That would come in and basically gank everybody and take the kill, and then the boss wouldn't respawn for another day or so. So, that kind of that's one mentality. You could say it's fun, but from another perspective, it's a huge waste of time to the 100 or so people who had been participating and doing most of the risk. to lose it all for a smaller group of people who took very little risk and got this a huge reward. So if Stephen is all about risk versus reward, that kind of stuff is definitely not not very balanced.
Well, like the best scenario I can imagine is to have a little bit of everything. I know a lot of people, world bosses are fun. World bosses are something that happen randomly and everybody groups up and whatever. As long as, like, let's say a world boss spawns, I don't know, let's call it the Dragon of Bacon. Let's keep it Ashes related. Let's call it Dragon of Bacon. And, you can gather 40 random people, 80 random people, but you need to do certain tasks to kill the boss that make it a challenge. Then I'm fine with that. Open world raids, which are raid zones with trash mobs and bosses. That's a little bit tricky. Like the idea I had earlier, which came to me randomly, I think that's a new take on the whole thing, because that way you pretty much include PvP and PvE without the grieving aspect of, open world bosses. You fight the boss, it's 1%, you get killed, the boss resets. So that's fine. When it comes to raiding itself, I honestly, and call me old school, I don't care. It's what I enjoy. I don't mind having instanced raids that are challenging, like raids where I really have to fight my way through, and boss fights that take a while and not just instant loot and free loot. So when it comes to that whole aspect, I think as soon as we know more, as soon as they tell us, I think a lot of people are either gonna be really happy or really disappointed, unless they really provide something for everybody. I think it's a hard question, honestly. It has not been done before, because I know people that prefer boss fights in Black Desert. I know other people that would never touch anything else except World of Warcraft raids. I don't know. Do you guys think we could expect, Frederick? You're mod. Do you know anything?
If I did, I wouldn't be able to talk about
it. Damn it! Well, I tried. Everybody, it's online. I tried. I did my best. Okay, podcast is over.
Yeah, this whole thing was trying to get you to break your NDA.
Exactly. Okay, let's jump to the next topic. Where is it? Leaderboards. Somebody, when I was going through the topics, because for those of you who do not know, I throw my topics at the community every 2 weeks to see what they want to talk about. So one of the topics that came up for when it comes to rating is leaderboards, because a lot of people, a lot of PvP focused players, they say, yeah, PvE isn't challenging, it's yada yada yada. And something a lot of other games implemented is leaderboards, the fastest kill and whatsoever. And World of Warcraft does a wonderful job with that story. So do you two want leaderboards on, for example, I don't know, fastest kill, the who done the most damage to the boss, the most healing, and yeah, do you guys want to see leaderboards in Ashes when it comes to rating?
Yes.
Do you?
I very much do. I think, MMOs to me, and might be just me, but I've been involved in MMOs since 2004, is about being competitive, right? It's about, because you've got a massive amount of other people around you, and you want to be the best. That's that to me is the primary driver. And without a leaderboard, how do you know you're the best, right? So, like I said before, though, what goes along with that is the game mechanics have to be balanced. Otherwise, leaderboards are useless. If you've got pay to win, for example, what use is a leaderboard? All that does is tell you who has the most money. Or if there are broken game mechanics in the system, all that does is tell you people who are exploiting the system to get ahead. So, Ashes is supposedly going to not be unbalanced, and it's going to have no pay to win, which is great. So yes, we do need leaderboards. We do need that competition to inspire people to advance and be ahead. The best games in history are completely balanced. They're very simple games, but they're completely balanced. Chess, poker, football, those kinds of things. It all boils down to your skills and abilities in those games, and that's what I love. I love to see and see it being emphasized in leaderboards.
What?
Yeah. I completely agree with you, Lex, about the competition and about if the game really is balanced. It's a great addition to the game. So I completely agree with what you said.
Well, I'm reading chat, and the terms sandbox and theme park came up, and I just want to throw something in. When we're talking about raids right now, and like I said this earlier, like we're talking about the old-fashioned term raiding, where you go in and you do PvE content. I know a lot of people these days, if you group up with people, I know it means just having larger groups, and that is a raid. But when we're talking about raids, we're talking mostly about PvE content right now. And I think if the game doesn't provide any challenging PvE content, then you should not. Then there's no need for like PvE raids. So I feel like because I know the term elitism comes out, and I could personally, and I'm saying personally here, could not care less, because this goes into the whole elitism, DPS and yada yada yada. But if I do PvE raids, if I know, Frederick, like I said, you're a mod, you have more grip with the community than I do. But when I go raiding, I compare myself to the top players online. I want to see how do they do the most damage, how do they improve what they do, how are they doing it, and that's how I improve. So if they have detailed leaderboards, for example, if you have a warrior and you got the stat of less damage taken, and you can see what does he do, when does he do it, that gives me a way to improve my own skill set. So I think, leaderboards is a good idea. It gives the whole PvE aspect, like, it gives it another edge, because a lot of people, they're like, PvE is boring, no, that's why a lot of people want to do PvP. I'm all for leaderboards in any way possible. The more leaderboards, the merrier. Because, like said, as soon as it goes pay to win, leaderboards are pretty much useless. So leaderboards could be our insurance that the game will never go pay to win. What do you guys think about that statement? Frederick?
Sorry, I cut out for a moment. Could you say it again?
Saying
just the last few words.
Saying that leaderboards, detailed leaderboards, would pretty much not like be our guarantee, but pretty much reassure us that the game won't be pay to win because of the PvE competition that would go in hand with leaderboards.
Yeah, sure. Steven has said many times that he does not want this game to go pay to win. So yeah, I think leaderboards is a great idea, especially when we know, at least hope that the game doesn't go pay to win. It's a great idea, and I also think it's a great idea with these detailed leaderboards you talked about, because then it adds a whole new level to the leaderboards. Instead of just being a big competition, it can also be a way to learn from other people, to learn from their tactics, to learn how they play their class, how they progress with their class. So I think it's a good idea to add this another level to the leaderboards, making them kind of guide section with leaderboards thingy. I think that's a really good idea.
Okay, let's jump to the next thing. Anybody who has, and I know, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry for that, but like my reference point when it comes to raiding is World of Warcraft, and like that's like my go-to game when it comes to raiding. and there are always a lot of quests in games like World of Warcraft where you need 40 people to do something. Anybody who played World of Warcraft in the early days knows about something called Thunder Fury.
Blessed Blade.
Yeah, and that whole quest line was the biggest pain in my patootie that I ever went through. Anyways, so to kind of like sum it up real quick, the Thunder Fury quest line was a quest line nobody could do by themselves. They had to kill certain raid bosses and hope to God himself, hope to the almighty God of sandals, any gaming god you want to pray to, that a certain item drops. Then that item dropped, but you needed another item, so you had to go and kill another raid boss for 400 tries until that guy maybe gets the courage to drop the other raid item. Then, you combine the items, you do a shit ton of crafting for the item, and then you get the chance to fight another boss that actually drops the actual item, which was, by the way, an awesome looking legendary sword. So I want to say this. I want epic raid quests in Ashes of Creation. I mean quests where hey, have you heard that guild is doing that quest? And you're like, oh, are you really? They're doing the quest for the thing that gives you the thing where you get that legendary thing from. So, I want that. I want to have quests in the game where you need the participation of a lot of people, and that everybody on the server knows, oh, holy shit, that guy is gonna get that thing. That thing is gonna be awesome. Like, what do you guys think about that? Do you guys want quests like that, or you guys just want, like solo doable legendary quests? Frederick.
No. No. Yeah. No. I think the idea behind a really epic raid quest is great. It brings the community together to a goal, a common goal. So yeah, I think the idea behind a really long line of quests, raid quests, to get a certain legendary item or epic item or whatever name they implement in Ashes of Creation, I think that's a great idea. I think it's a fun idea to give people something to do. It gives raiding a purpose besides than just getting the loot that raid bosses drops, getting the kills. It gives a purpose to do said raid. And on top of that, if raids get out leveled or out geared like they do in WoW, it could open up a way to revive old raids with a quest line within that raid.
What do you think, Lex?
Yeah, I totally agree with Fred. I mean, raids, and bosses in general in MMOs have become more and more RNG based these days, and particularly in games like WoW and Final Fantasy and all that. The kind of thing that has been lost a little bit is the idea that you can actually work toward a specific goal. It might be hard to get there, but achievable if you have the right people and the right composition and all that over a long period of time. That doesn't involve repetitive grinding, which is what you get in RNG based loot rewards. You have to kill the boss X number of times until something drops, and that to me takes away. I think that's okay. I think having that in the game is important too, but I think having an objective-based, longer epic quest lines, not just for items, but also to unlock things, maybe for your guild or for your social organization, or maybe unlock certain other quest lines and things like that lead to different places. So I think that's important, and a great thing that I remember being very immersive in MMORPGs in in the earlier days.
Well, maybe honestly, and I have to say to everybody's watching, I'm sorry for that, but I'm taking a lot of, I'm bringing up a lot of references from like way back when I first got started with MMOs, because back then I was younger. I was like, oh my god, I never played anything like this before. All I played was Super Mario on the N64, and the thing is, I feel like the last decade when it comes to MMORPGs, that honestly I think it's a generation thing. I think it's because I'm like, I stood still on time when it comes to that. It's nothing special anymore. Like, that's the feeling I get. Like, it's yeah, you know what, you go in, you do your daily stuff, and then that's it. And back then, when I remember, like, for those who do not know this, back in World of Warcraft, there was a quest line where somebody on the server had to unlock a raid. And this is going into our last topic for today. And I think I spoiled this before because I had up the wrong graphic. But it's raid impact on the world story. And anyways, so this guy had to find an item in a raid, had to craft the item and unlock another raid. And that was like the biggest thing that ever happened on the server. I have not noticed any other event in the whole history of World of Warcraft that was bigger than that, because everybody knew, hey, listen, the guy got the item. The guy is unlocking the raid for us tonight. Everybody joined up. Beep! Server crash. Like 4 times in a row. Until the admins were like, listen, wait till he opens up the raid, then go into the zone. And I'm hoping, and this is me again being, a little bit dreamy, living in a dream world. But I'm hoping for stuff like that to be in Ashes of Creation. I want to be like, hey, listen, that one group from that one guild, from that one zone, from that one node, they cleared out that dungeon, and one of the bosses dropped an item, and that item is having some sort of impact in the world. Or the way they dropped. The way they killed the boss had an impact on the world. If they killed the boss as faster than anybody else, within like 5 minutes, the boss does something else and something else happens in the world. So what can you two imagine what sort of impact raids could have? And I'm talking about open world raids, if that's a thing, instant raids, if that's a thing. What do you think raids could have when it comes to impact on the world? Like, Frederick, what do you think could happen if a group of people kills a boss in a certain way, or kills a boss for the first time? Like, what are the scenarios that come to your mind when you think about that stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Raids having an impact on the world is really cool. I've never seen it before in any game, and I think the idea is really cool. But for me, I can't really imagine the impact it can have, because I'm worrying that said impact would ruin the game for other players. Like, for example, if you kill a boss faster than anybody else, the boss spawns something in the world or gives an item to a player or a guild that nobody else has. Like that. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
No, I think I know what you're saying, but I think I know what you're saying. But wouldn't that, let's say, all right, I'm painting you a scenario. I'm taking out my brush and I'm painting you something awesome. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's say my guild, the Guild of Awesomeness, kills the evil Lord Sandal in his castle for the first time in the fastest time ever. And the Lord of Sandals gives us the almighty Sandal that shits ton, I don't know, like 10,000 gold a day. Because, it's the mighty Sandal and does whatever it wants. And we get that money. We can do with that money whatever we want. And so then, don't you think other guilds would have would be eager to also kill the boss in the same amount of time to get the sandal, like also get a sandal from the boss? Like, they don't get our sandal, but they get another sandal. Like, what do you think? Like, isn't that like something like guilds can strive for if something like that would happen? Like, so what do you think?
Well, yeah, I see your point too. I see both both of your guys' points, and I actually tend to agree with Fred in that. The way it's been spoken about in Ashes, it might be different. You mightn't be able to kill that boss again for a long period of time, and that's in effect locking a lot of people out of that content just because you happen to get it first, right? You just happen to be awake at that time, or your guild's raiding times just happen to coincide with the time that the boss spawned. So if that is the case, then I think that's going to disadvantage people and piss some people off. If the bosses, once epic raid bosses are killed, they don't respawn until the exact confluence of factors occurs again, such as the season, the node type, the node progression, what the guild castle. All of those factors have to be exactly the same again before the boss respawns, which could be never. So I see Intrepid are leaving because okay. But on the positive side, what you say, Giant, is yes, if bosses do respawn, or if the same loot is available, or if there are some major things that are unlocked. For example, new buildings in your node. If you kill a world boss, a raid boss in your node zone of influence, or if anyone kills it, it unlocks buildings in your node or in your metropolis, stuff like that. And they might be buffs, or they might be new deities. A new deity might be released or something like that. It's all speculation, but yes, that would give people incentive to try to do that and compete for the same kills.
You got anything to add, Fred?
Yeah, I kind of do. So if we go from where Lex left off with the buffs, so the buildings to said node, wouldn't that just make the node or the zone of influence really OP, and just make everyone from all around the world move to that raid, move to that boss, and try to fulfill the objective? Wouldn't that potentially make a certain node the best place to be, per se, and just making everyone leave behind the other nodes when they find out that this raid gives this legendary sandal or something?
But
yeah,
wouldn't it?
I see that point.
But wouldn't it also, inspire other communities, other nodes to take down that node, or de-level that node so that raid gets shut down?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. On the flip side of it is it makes the nodes a target, right? It makes them, if there is this sandal that generates gold, or if there is this building that gives them some ability or buff or something, then to me, I wouldn't want to necessarily move there and lose all of my progression and my guild and my node and everything like that. I'd want to get together a raiding party and siege the place and knock it down a peg or two.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. The thing that attracts a lot of people to Ashes, and I notice this because I haven't been that active on the Discord the last couple of weeks, but I always lurk and I always read stuff. But the thing that catched my eye, and it's still something that I cannot really fathom, is the fact that Ashes creation isn't it's always changing. There's always something changing in the world. I think that's something that people want to experience. And I think because if you look at the PvE aspect of the game, and Steven said, and I'm quoting here, I know he said it. One of these days, I'm actually gonna go through all the old streams and timeline that sucker. But he said, PvE content derives PvP content, and for me that means that PvE content has a big impact on the world because it builds up the world. So I'm assuming, as PvE raids being the high tier of PvE content, is that high level raids, raids in general, will have a big impact on the world. So that's something I'm really interested in, because I want to know, okay, we killed that guy for the first time, what's happening? We killed the dragon of bacon, what's happening? Oh, he died and now everybody gets free bacon. and we don't have to farm or plunder anybody else because we can live happily ever after. So it's something I personally am looking really forward to, because there hasn't, and I'm being honest right now, there hasn't been like a good raiding game since like early World of Warcraft till Wrath of the Lich King.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me personally. So yeah. So do you guys?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Do you guys got anything to add when it comes to raids? Otherwise, I'm gonna open up the chat for questions.
I don't have anything.
Nope, nothing more.
Okay. So because we're already 10 minutes over our scheduled time, so if anybody in chat wants to tear us down, make fun about us, call us names or anything, or has any questions for us, this would be now the time and place to ask them. Oh yeah, by the way, Frederick, have you guys cleared your raids now? Are you guys clear on Mythic?
No, we are not cleared in Mythic yet.
So much to learn, my young Padawan. So much to learn.
God, even after the nerfs, I don't play well at the moment, but I do follow the high-end progression, all of the top guilds, and Mythic, Mythic.
Okay, I got a question. Official con recting for a raid with set ratio, yay or nay? I don't get it.
Where do you see that?
Ruby Unicorn, official con racing for raid with set ratio. Does it mean contracting? Like you're contracting people?
Yeah, contracting as in hiring. He just sent a new message.
Well, I'm cool with that. Like contract, because here's a sad fact, and I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this, but honestly, I play the bad guy on this podcast all the time, so I don't really care. There's a lot of players, a lot of players that do mostly PvP or dangle a little bit in PvE that say that let's say PvE is for plebs, noobs, whatever. If a raid is done right, it is challenging. Then it takes a lot of skill to finish it before a nerf comes out, before you get buffed or whatsoever. There's a lot of people that are like, yeah, you know what, I cleared Arthur's on heroic, and then people that cleared Arthur's on heroic before he got nerfed, they're like, oh yeah, did you kill him before nerf or after nerf? Oh no, after nerf. Yeah, you're not hardcore. So if you have a small guild and you cannot fill out 40 people, if you can able to hire people and you pay them, like, yeah, they cleared that dungeon or that raid, I want to hire them. Yeah, sure. Like I am cool. Like I like the idea to getting hired to do raids, because for most raiders, you do a raid till you have it on farm status, and then it's cleared. If you have everything you need out of the raid, you're not going back. But helping out other guilds in your community and getting paid for it, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, but what we've seen in WoW recently, with the top guilds exorcies, doing real money transactions to do exactly that. That's something I hope we don't get in Ashes.
What do you think, Frederick?
Yeah, well, I agree with Lex. I've seen boosting and a lot for both real life money and for in-game gold. So personally, I don't really like the idea of paying other players to help you or to boost you through set content.
Well, there's nothing really we can do about it. Like, I'm being honest here, like, there's nothing we can do to stop that. Like, what I was thinking of was, like an in-game, how Black Desert has contracts, like guild contracts?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, something like that in the game. Like, hey, listen, you get that much gold from us if you help us clear that boss while you're being in a guild group with us. Like, I like the idea, because, it takes maybe a little bit away from the, like, real thing, like the real issue you guys just mentioned. So, that's, like, one of the things they could do, because, let's be honest, I'm not trying to be the bad guy here, but there is nothing stopping people to do that. Unless they have, like, GMs that, like, ban you instantly for that.
Yeah, which is what's happening in WoW at the moment, I believe. A lot of people are getting banned. For the real money, at least.
Yeah, for the real money, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Any of you guys ever played in games like Lineage 2 that have raids like an Theris layer with over 200 people? I never played Lineage 2. I'm straight up, I'm honest. I never played Lineage 2. Any of you guys?
I had, but I never got into the, never progressed as far enough to get to the rating.
Okay, so I think if there's no more questions, I think that's it. I just wanna say like one thing. Right now, we do not know anything about raids. We know they're aiming for 40-man people. They're aiming for open world stuff. I am personally, and I'm saying this on a personal note, I hope that they can satisfy like the majority of people. I know as soon as they introduce the raid system, I know there's gonna be people that are going to be salty and disappointed. I might even be one of them, because I already said in the past that, if the game doesn't have a challenging raid system where I can just focus on my PvP challenge, like Arthur's, hardcore heroic fights, that I will be a little bit disappointed. I get that. So I just want everybody who's watching to keep an open mind, because they said they're gonna make MMORPGs great again. For me personally, in a good MMORPG, you do have good PvP. And, World of Warcraft, like, I'm always going back to World of Warcraft in the early days, because early day World of Warcraft is still one of the best games I ever played. I still play on a classic server once in a while. I want them to create a new, improved raid system. Something that we have not done before, but something that appeals to everybody. And I think I speak for a lot of people that can agree with that statement. Just keep an open mind, and let's just hope for the best before we shut down every other possibility. And by the way, the idea I had earlier about the castle and the evil Lord Sandal, I kind of gonna write that down later. Anything you guys got to add, Frederick? What do you want? Do you want raids? Do you want epic raids, Frederick?
Yeah, for sure. I think if it was me creating this game, I would of course try to cater to or please as many people as possible. So yeah, for sure, I would personally love hardcore raids with really hard mechanics, but I wouldn't mind if they made easier versions or made it so that the softcore players could play the raids. So yeah, to keep an open mind and wait to judge them before we've really seen what Intrepid is able to do.
Lex, any famous last words?
Well, yeah, thank you guys for having me on, and thanks for everyone watching. And I just want everyone to know that I love Sarah Monin, and I'm leaving my wife for him.
Oh, okay. So everybody, you heard it, ceremony and Lex. The wedding is gonna be next week on Discord. Steven's gonna hold a ceremony. I'm gonna be the flower girl, and I see you all next week.
Kappa.
Wait. No, we're not going. We're not going. I got something. Boys, yeah, says Giant. Nah, you can convert it. I think a good combo of both is good as well. Well, I just like. How do I best explain that? Because it's a topic that I could talk about for hours. So I'm trying to cut this short. I'm just trying to say is I don't want to say it's an age thing, but having a good PvE raid where you really get your ass kicked by a stupid program for like 80 tries, 50 tries, 200 tries, and then finally in the middle of the night at 1 a.m. in the morning when you're half asleep and you finally kill the boss and you just go nuts because you finally, after 400 tries, kill that damn boss, is something I want everybody to experience, because it's a great feeling. It's something, yeah, we finally beat the boss. We beat the last boss in this stupid game. So and I just want everybody to have that experience, because I know a lot of people that don't gonna have that experience now, even if they go back into World of Warcraft or start playing World of Warcraft now. But yeah, learning bosses is like Unicorn says it. Learning bosses on the hardest difficulty there is something Passion's Raiders do. And I'm one of them, and I kind of miss it a lot, and I think Lex is the same in that regard.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm getting emotional. I'm cutting this off. Everybody, thanks for watching. Lex and Frederick, thanks for joining me. It was awesome talking with you guys.
Thank you for having me. It was really great. Thank you for watching, guys.
Any mod things? Anything you want to tell the community? Anything mod related? Any events coming up? Like, you can plug whatever you want on this podcast. Like, you're a mod. You're like close to Jesus when it comes to Ashes.
Well, if I have to plug anything, then great things are happening soon. TM. So stay tuned for that.
Oh yeah, and quick reminder, everybody. This podcast is only every 2 weeks, and it's not the modcast. The modcast is every Wednesday at times where I cannot watch it. So yeah, everybody, make sure to tune in on Wednesday for Sourmans and the modcast and all the other mods. And everybody, have a good night. Stay safe. Stay on the Discord, and I talk to you all in 2 weeks. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.